I just had a regular checkup, and my doctor was a little concerned about something he saw, so we did some more tests. And I will never forget the day when we were all just chatting, goofing around, having great family time. And I got a phone call from the nurse that said, I'm calling to let you know you have a fairly large brain tumor. And it's going to require a craniotomy. We have to do this. If we don't, you'll go blind. And one of the topics that came up was, hey, I really just worked my tail off. This is the best shape I've ever been in as a clarinetist. How is that going to affect it? And they're like, well, honestly, we've never done surgery on a professional clarinetist before. But they said, you won't be able to play for several months because the pressure will kill you. But we think that it will all come back eventually. You feel like you're losing part of who you are and what your identity is. And that it's a little dark. It feels off. It feels wrong. In my experience, I had already sort of had that experience in the sense that I really didn't play for over a decade while I was raising my family. And I remember when I started playing again, I would tell people, it's like I had chopped off my left arm and didn't realize that it was gone until I got it back. And I'm like, yeah. That's who I am. But because I had lived happily without that, I knew I could do it again. I was sad and it was hard, but I never had that feeling of I'm never going to be me again.
Hey, welcome back to the show, everyone. Today we have a very special guest here with us because she is my former boss, and she put it in my contract. No, just kidding. So one of the things I have been really wanting to do on this show, and something that actually some of you out there in podcast land have reached out to me about, is people who have experiences with their health that deeply affect their playing that weren't necessarily performance-related injuries or illnesses or anything of that sort. Whether that be a surgery or just an unrelated illness, but it deeply affected your playing. I really want to make sure that you guys feel seen out there and that you have people that you could share your experiences with in some way, shape, or form. And so Dr. Amy Lee Gabbitas is here with us today from BYU, one of my former bosses, and I'm so grateful that you're here. Welcome.
Well, thanks for having me. This is a treat. And I will say I miss our conversations in the office.
Me too. That's one of the reasons why I want to have you back here so we could have another one.
Okay.
So we were talking before, and I just really like to get down to business here on the show with your experience. You just being able to have the floor to share whatever you would like about your experience with your health issue that affected your playing. And so if you wanted to start wherever you'd like, and I'll just hand the reins over to you.
Okay. So I am a clarinet player. I did that for my undergrad and master's degree. And then my career is a little different than most in that I married a military man and we moved all over the country. I have 5 children. And that's what I did for about 15 years until I felt very strongly prompted, a woman of faith here, that I needed to go back to school, and my husband was on board, although he thought maybe we wait another year till our youngest is in first grade, not half-day kindergarten, but I'm like, well, yeah, we have to go now. And that turned out to be a huge blessing because I finished school in December of 2019. My husband left for military training in like 2 weeks after I graduated. And then we were into spring of 2020, which the whole world kind of changed.
A wonderful time of year.
It's a great time. But things were good. All my people came home because he got sent home early from training. And we were just hanging out. My oldest daughter moved back home. She's a college student. Life was good, but I just had a regular checkup, and my doctor was a little concerned about something he saw, so we did some more tests. And I will never forget the day we were on a phone call. I have a son who was serving a mission for our church, and once a week we got to talk to him. And we were all just chatting, goofing around, having great family time. And I got a phone call from the nurse that said, I'm calling to let you know you have a fairly large brain tumor, um, and it's going to require a craniotomy, which is a big
Oh my
deal
goodness.
surgery. Yeah. But she said, "Don't worry, you're not gonna die." I'm like, "Who says that? That's
Wonderful.
awful." And over the next couple of weeks, this was April of 2020, I met with both surgeons that were gonna do the surgery, and they explained, we have to do this. If we don't, you'll go blind." And one of the topics that came up was, "Hey, I really just worked my tail off. This is the best shape I've ever been in as a clarinetist. How is that going to affect it?" And they're like, "Well, honestly, we've never done surgery on a professional clarinetist before, but they said you won't be able to play for several months because the pressure will kill you, but we think that it will all come back eventually." And honestly, the fact that it was during COVID turned out to be a huge blessing because I had been scheduled to perform at the International Clarinet Conference that summer. I had a lot of things in the works performance-wise, but they all got postponed or canceled. And so if you have to be out for months and months, that was the time to do it. So I had the surgery, not prepared for how miserable an experience that was. I remember telling the nurse, "Hey, can you just knock me out? This is too much. I can't handle it. This is worse than childbirth." And I'd had 3 babies with no drugs. I'm like, rather do that than any of this. And like, I was in the ICU for a few days at first, and the hardest part was that no one could come visit because everything was shut down. No visitors in the hospital. I got dropped off at the curb and picked up at the curb over a week later. Um, and so it's a dark place, and a lot of people were miserable, and honestly, the staff was so overworked because they had all these
Oh
extra
yeah. Yeah.
COVID cases coming in, and they were doing their best, but I was miserable and asked, "Can you put me out something?" And they said, "No, and now you have to have an MRI." When you have a massive headache, that's the last place in the world you wanna be. And being wheeled down the corridor, I started praying, "Hey, can you help me get through this? Also, why did I do this? I didn't even have a headache before this happened." And the comforting thing is while I was sitting in the MRI, just hoping not to throw up all over everything, I started hearing a clarinet play Amazing Grace, this beautiful melody. And that was the first kind of hope that I had that somehow I'd get to play again and it was going to be okay. I was not prepared for how long it was going to take before I could play without immense pain. I mean, I was cleared to start playing about 3 months later. And at that point, I had in-house like not hospice, but care. They would come in and help me
Sure.
do my exercises, relearn how to walk, get my balance back. Um, yeah, it was pretty bad. And then as soon as I started feeling better, I had to do radiation for 6 weeks. So the hair fell out, just misery, misery. And so slowly things started getting back. I started driving again. That was a big deal. And they cleared me to play. So I started playing, but every time I played, I got really bad headaches. The pain was pretty bad. And I always had a headache, but then it would just shoot up in intensity when I played. And I had agreed to do a recital before all of this happened up at the University of Utah, with another grad student. And so I didn't want to let her down. It got rescheduled for October. So surgery was in April. October was my first real performance, real recital that I did. And I hadn't told this woman what I had gone through. I just like, "Here I
Oh wow.
am. I'm gonna play and I'm gonna do the best that I can." And I remember we were about to go on stage, and it was a weird setup because still COVID shut down. The only person in the audience was her professor, and they still required bell covers, which just made the pressure even more intense. In
Oh,
fact,
wow. Yeah, I
I
bet.
made a bell cover that had a giant slit in the middle, so it would be as little, you know, pressure as possible
Sure.
and still meet the requirements. But this woman who I didn't know was religious at all, she said, "Can we say a prayer before we go on?" And I said, "Yes, please." She had no idea what was going on. And I was able to go on, play. Everything went really well. But as soon as I walked off that stage, I was sick and I was in bed for days after that. And so I went back to my doctor. I said, "This is not working. It's been 6 months. You thought it would be better. What can we do?" And he just a very sweet man. And by then I had lots of doctors on my team, but this one was my
Uh-huh.
radiologist. I knew him the best. And he said, "Frankly, I'm out of ideas, but I'm going to come back with um, a suggestion of where you can go." And that was the only time I really broke down sobbing in the office. And his nurse was like, "This is really normal. You make it through all the hard stuff, and life is still not what it should be. You haven't gotten much where you want to be." So I went to see this specialist, and it took several more months to even get in to see her. But she spent an hour looking at every MRI, every scan, and she didn't talk the whole time. It was kind of this awkward silence of, "Oh no, how bad is this?" And she just turned and looked at me. She said, "One, you're smart to have had the surgery," which had become a really concern. Like, why did I do this
Oh, yeah, I
if
bet.
I didn't have any symptoms and now I'm miserable? And then she said, "I think I can help you." And she did. She was able to figure out what nerves had gotten cut and what we needed to focus on. And she was even able to do an injection that day. I didn't have a headache for the first time in a year at that point.
A
Um,
year. Holy cow.
yeah, a year. And she said it still might take a while to get it fully back, but that was the first, like, okay, I can breathe again and I'm gonna be able to do this. And then back to the Amazing Grace tune, I had written a grant proposal to write some trio arrangement, reed trios, so clarinet, oboe, and bassoon, and we were able to record it that year and it actually sound good. I listened back and I'm like, this is just 1 year after, and I'm so grateful. And then my quintet was invited to play at the Clarinet Fest again, and it was all recorded online. And so now we have a really beautiful recording of a really difficult piece that personally I got to play before the surgery and then again after. And luckily, I feel so blessed that it's just as high quality as it had been before. But it took a long time to get there, and it was pretty rough for a lot of that.
Hey, real quick, sorry to interrupt the episode, but if you are a musician who's going through an injury right now and you feel like you could use some extra help or some extra coping strategies to help you get through this really sucky, difficult experience, head to musicianunchained.com/let's hang to see if a coaching relationship would be right for you at this time in your recovery. Okay, enjoy the rest of the episode. One of the things that stuck out to me was that comment from one of the nurses, I think you said, where it's like life is still not where it should be, quote unquote
Yeah.
should be,
Yeah.
even after all this time, after you've done all the hard stuff. I feel like there's going to be a lot of people out there who can relate to that, whether or not it was a performance injury for them, an illness, or whatever. It's just like some of these things really do just take time. What were some of the things that kind of helped you, in addition to what you've already shared, to just to keep moving forward with like that goal, right?
Yeah.
Just to find a solution, even when it just seemed like there was no light at the end of the tunnel, even though you felt like you'd already done all the hard work.
Yeah. So a couple of things. One, I had kind of opened my mind to maybe performance isn't the route you're going to go as hardcore as you thought you were. So I started teaching in a lot of areas that I hadn't taught before. For instance, I started coaching marching band woodwinds. I had no idea I would love it as much as I do. I still do that, even though I really don't have time, but I definitely love it. And I've been able to help a lot of high schoolers get into colleges and just
Oh,
learn how to
wonderful.
practice and play their instruments. And they didn't believe they could. And I knew, I'm like, I've been teaching private lessons now for over 30 years. And so I'm like, I know what it takes. And I watched that in you and help them see that there's a possibility. And That's so fun, and then to get emails are like, "Hey, I'm doing this and how that." So, I love doing that. Another thing is I now teach at Utah Valley University lecture classes. The first one I taught was a pop music class, American pop music, which I really don't know anything about, but it turned out to be a blast because I couldn't practice. Wow, a lot of time opens up when you can't spend all your
Ain't
day
that the
practicing.
truth? Yeah.
What?
Amen to that.
And so that has become a comfortable thing that I really enjoy getting in front of these people who really don't know anything about music and just opening their world to that and helping them see the beauty and understand it better. So, looking at other options, I said, okay, I did go to school, I completed all of this. What can I do with it? So, those are some beautiful things. I also started writing a lot of arranging. So, I have a lot of things that I've written now. And we have a whole album that we're able to produce. And then I still write a lot for my woodwind quintet, Aspen Winds. We've done some silent films now that I've scored the
Oh,
music
wow.
for and that we're performing. Anyway, we're doing Looney Tunes this year. I'm so excited. Because these are becoming public domain. So you can use
Oh,
all
right,
these
right.
older films that weren't available before. So it opened up some other doors. My teaching has gotten better because I'm a little bit more patient and really can tell, okay, this is going to cause you problems down the road. Let's fix it now. So other skills had the chance to come out that I didn't really focus on before when I couldn't play. And then now, every time I can play, I'm so excited to do it. So practicing is even more fun than it was before. And so is performing. In fact, just last month, I got to play a piece that I had played before the surgery. It's one of the last quintet concerts we had done. It's a great it's written for classical woodwind quintet, but it's very jazzy, so the clarinet gets to go all over the place. And that's actually the piece I fell asleep to for the first surgery, because
Oh,
my
really?
doctor, he's like, "I like to put good vibes into the operating room, so I let my patients decide what to fall asleep listening to." And I had chosen that piece because I'm like, "I'm gonna play that again. I don't care how long it takes, but I'm gonna play that one again." It's called Red Clay, Mississippi Delta. It's a blast. But I just got to play it at a park concert that all my marching band kids were at a month ago. And I was able to share with them, like, "Hey, I didn't know if I was ever gonna be able to do this again." And I got to. So things to look forward to as well.
Yeah. So, was that the first time you had played that piece since the whole
Mhm.
ordeal?
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
5 years later?
Mhm. Yep. Just took a little while to get there.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow. That's like making my heart feel all warm and fuzzy right now. You know, I really hope that I think that's really inspiring, and thank you for sharing that. You had mentioned just as a result of the pandemic that you had, you know, all of your kiddos and your husband back in the same living quarters again. Basically,
Yeah.
probably overnight. You know, like
Mhm.
really really quick. Um, I'm trying to make sure I get the timeline right in my head, but did that happened before
Yeah,
you
2
had the
weeks
surgery?
2
2 weeks
weeks
before.
before.
Okay. So,
Yeah.
looking back on that aspect of it, of this whole experience, what role did your family and that kind of social and familial support play in your whole recovery experience?
Okay. It I don't know how it would have worked without them being there. My husband works kind of odd hours, so he would leave for work at 4 AM, and my 2 older girls took turns. They took shifts with me because I couldn't do anything. I couldn't get out of bed by myself. I couldn't use the restroom by myself, couldn't feed myself. Like, it was really bad. And they just had shifts. And they had like a little chart of medicine dosing and what happened at what time. And there was some really good bonding during that because I also wasn't sleeping well. So, like, my daughter who had the 4 AM shifts, we ended up watching Parks and Rec. She had never seen that series. That was our 4 AM to 7 AM
There you go.
activity every morning. And they were so sweet. And so many things like that happened to help me. And then my youngest daughter was my walking buddy because they're like, you have to start walking. And that's the last thing you want to do when you're like, I have to use a cane. I have no endurance. And the first day I was like, I walked to the front porch and back, woohoo, or then to the mailbox and then 2 houses down the street. And eventually she and I would walk the whole block. We live on a pretty big block. There's cows and horses on our block. But that's when my neighbors, because you don't really see your neighbors or anything either when everyone's cooped up in their house, but they'd be out doing yard work and eventually started asking, why are you walking with a cane? What is going on? I'm like, oh, brain surgery. And so it turned out to be this beautiful thing. And it would take about an hour it's not even a mile. It was just really slow going. But yeah, so my kids were very involved with and helping run the house. They did all the cooking and the cleaning and just took really good care of me. And part of it, they couldn't do anything else either. Um, they had to do online school, the high schoolers. And I remember lying on my son's bed trying to just coerce him into doing his homework. And eventually I didn't remember dozing off, but he kind of poked me. He's like, Mom, I need you to wake up because you're snoring through he had to do a video assignment. I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. But they were so patient and like so kind and helpful that it was great. That part of it was beautiful. And I'll always remember that time fondly.
Hey, sorry to interrupt the episode yet again, but I wanted to tell you that if you are also a music educator of any kind and you feel like this is a conversation that needs to be had for your program, please reach out to me at clark@musicianunchained.com and we can talk about how we can collaborate together to bring these topics, to bring these strategies to your program to help your students stay as healthy and as happy as they can while pursuing their passion. Keep on keeping on and continue watching the episode. Yeah, that's awesome. We in my family, we've experienced a few things where, everyone in the family has to pitch in to help a certain member of the family. And it's a tough experience for everyone, but it definitely brings you together in just in a way that like nothing else really can. I don't see how anything else can do something like that. But, that story you told about going to the mailbox triggered a question in my mind of in relation to your teaching, because I feel like those types of goals can seem insurmountable at times, right? From outsider's perspective looking in. I've never had to go through something like that, but it can seem like really, really difficult goals, I'd imagine. And so in accomplishing those types of goals, what did that teach you as far as being a clarinet teacher even? How did that inform your teaching?
You know what? I think like the one that jumped out to me right at first is that first season I was coaching marching band. They were playing a snippet of Copland's Hoedown. So da 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 da. And these woodwinds, a lot of them had a hard time counting quarter notes. Like it was really basic. They're like, we're never ever gonna be able to play this. And I remember telling them, I said, if I can stand here, I still have to use my cane to stand here and not fall off the stage. And I'm gonna play one measure at a time with you. And that's how slow we had to do it. I said, I guarantee you're going to be able to play it by the end of the season. And they did. And I think partly because they're like, we have this crazy woman who like can't even walk. So,
Yeah.
and that's when I like could slowly start playing. And so I just play one measure at a time, really slow. And it worked and they were able to do it. And I run into those kids all the time now. And like they're majors in sax performance and I was able to just help them hook up with the teacher. I'm like, here's the next step. You need a better horn. You need to find a teacher. And the teacher, like the sax teacher, we really needed a sax teacher because I had so many good sax players that just needed more help than what I could help them with. And I remember being at the local music store talking to one of the tech guys because of my BYU job, I know all the repairmen. And I'm like, hey, Waylon, do you know a sax teacher in Springville where we are? And he said, I just put an offer in on my house last night in Springville. And so he is still the sax teacher. He doesn't even take anyone not in Springville anymore. But that was such a huge blessing. And I think those boys were like she really cares. Like, we better actually work harder because she's putting so much effort into us and no one's ever even paid attention to us before.
Mm.
Including my own son who will be at BYU after his mission next year. So I'm on
Oh,
some
that's right. That's right.
yeah. So I'm excited about that. But yeah, things like that where when kids just say, I can't do it, I'm like, oh, let me tell you. I have more confidence in myself now too, of I know what it takes and I've seen that in you. And if you decide that's what you want to do, you can. But there's no reason why you can't. Um, and it's nice that they actually listen and believe me on that one.
No, that's beautiful. I love hearing my guests when they talk about how their experiences just help them become a better teacher because that in my opinion and experience, that's just how, we use our, it's putting our lessons learned in action, right? Putting our trials into action and getting something, for what we went through. So I just love asking questions like that. Um, I'm gonna ask a question that it's gonna dig a little deep and so
Okay.
share what you feel fit or what you feel comfortable sharing. But you've talked about missing performances and obviously just the whole recovery experience, and how that was different than what your original plan was.
Mhm.
We did an event back in March of 2025, so about 7 months ago from the time of this recording. Um, with Dr. John Skidmore, who is a performance psychologist. We've had him on the show and whatnot. He talks about grieving as being a peak performance skill. What
Mhm.
has what was it like learning to grieve like that original plan that you had for your career, and those performances that you had to miss out on and things like that while you were going through this recovery?
Hmm. I think the hardest part of being a performer and going through that is because you feel like you're losing part of who you are and what your identity is. And it's a little dark. It feels off. It feels wrong. Um, in my experience, I had already sort of had that experience in the sense that I really didn't play for over a decade while I was raising my family. And I remember when I started playing again, I would tell people, it's like I had chopped off my left arm and didn't realize that it was gone until I got it back. And I'm like, oh,
Oh, yeah.
that's who I am. But because I had lived happily without that, I knew I could do it again. I was sad and it was hard, but I never had that feeling of I'm never going to be me again. I just thought, well, this is going to look different, but I'll have something that I will still enjoy and love life. It'll just be different. So the grieving was just, okay, why did I go through all of the schooling stuff if I can't
Uh-huh.
use it? But not realizing part of the schooling things was so that I could teach these other classes and I met a lot of people that I was able to work with in the future. So there were a lot of great things that came out of it. But it's okay to be sad. That's just
Yeah,
that's just part
totally.
of it. That's life in general. Things are gonna be really sad sometimes. Um, and and another thing too that I drew back on, when I look at through my life, I'm like, what are the hardest things? This brain surgery is definitely one of the hardest things. But the other thing that's I think is on the same level as difficulty was my husband was deployed for 15 months to Afghanistan when our we had 4 kids at the time and our baby was only 6 months old. That was really, really hard too. And the skills and things I got from that experience definitely helped facing another really hard experience because I knew I could do it. I knew I wasn't gonna quit or crack, like, I could do it, and a lot of great things could come out of it anyway.
That's beautiful. What You don't have to necessarily share any specific experiences, but have you in the last 5 years seen um how your recovery experience and surgery and all that stuff has helped you in experiences since then? Because like I've
Mm,
been through this now, I can now use that energy to get through this.
It happens a lot. Um, I don't know about specifics.
Well, I
I
mean,
do.
maybe I should rephrase. I'm not saying you need to necessarily bury your soul or anything like that, but like, have you found that because you've gone through this experience, or how have you found that because you've gone through this experience, you now have this bank of energy or of strength, maybe is a better
Mhm.
word, or have you? And
Yeah. No, there's been a few things, and I look at well, what's funny, so I have a pretty chaotic life. I work at a lot of different places, lots of things. My husband does go on these trips, like, he just went to Alaska for a year and a half. The building move at BYU, we moved all of our equipment from one building to the next building, which you were part of.
yep,
Things like that would have taken over everything and would have felt so overwhelming were not that bad. Does that make sense? Like,
oh
you can
yeah,
look at
yeah,
this really hard thing, and you're like, "That's fine." At the end of the day, I can still go home and relax and sleep and eat and be able to function, and so we're good. It's fine. Um, and so, yeah, sometimes people will say to me like, when my husband left for Alaska, the day after he left, my entire ceiling of my carport fell down.
oh
No real
wonderful,
reason. Yeah, and I just looked at it, I'm like, "Huh, I wonder what we do about that." But I'm so blessed to have the best neighbors in the world, the best church community, family, that the next day there were people there helping me fix it. And my son, college-age son, came over and he's like, "I wanna learn how to do sheetrock." And so it became a great learning experience instead of an overwhelming, "Oh, no, what do I do?" Um, and people ask, like, "How do you handle, like, your" anyway, I'm like, it's fine. Once you are good at handling really hard things, the medium things don't feel so bad.
yeah, yeah, definitely. I've also found that for me, it's like everything just becomes kind of small. Like you were saying, it's just like everything becomes small potatoes, but then you get really good at cooking them too, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
And just yeah, that's wonderful. You've kind of already alluded to this, but and also in this event that I referenced earlier, but how has this experience just changed your view, your perspective on your musicianship as a whole moving forward?
Um, in some ways, so I feel like I'm on borrowed time in the sense that I think the longevity of my performing career is probably a little shorter than it would have been. And I've had some scares, like just a month ago, we thought we might have to go back in and work on the tumor, do another surgery.
Oh man.
Um, And I really believe in prayer and, fasting and faith, and so I had a huge community pray for me, and I went to my next checkup. My doctor, because he's like, "At this point, we're probably gonna have to do surgery again. It won't be as
Oh,
bad."
gotcha.
Um, but the longer we can put it off, the better it will be, partly because techniques in surgery are getting so much better. But I just had a checkup a couple weeks ago, and he's like, "I don't need to see you until March." We were on a 6-week plan, but he said, "I don't know what you did, but it looks way better now." And I'm like, "Well,
Wow.
I know what I did."
That's
Um,
amazing, Amy. That's
so
I'm so happy to hear that.
I am relieved as well, because part
Yeah.
of it, because he's like, "I think it would only be a 2 to 3 week recovery, not months and months." And I said, "I'd still rather not
Still a
do."
yeah.
Um, but the headaches were coming back, and the sight too. We're always watching the sight because sometimes it doesn't work as well as it should.
Oh,
But,
okay.
he's like, you just passed every test amazingly well, like, almost better than before." Anyway, um, so I'm like, I'm gonna be grateful for the borrowed time that I have. It could have ended 5 years ago, but now I still get to play, and I want to do the best I can with what time I have. But I'm also starting to look at, what am I gonna do after that? And, I have some fun ideas of how it might change in the future. So I'm excited for that too.
Yeah. Yeah. And how is like the the role of the clarinet itself? Like you said it before, it was like your left arm came back. Do you feel like it's the same way? Like it still has that same relationship?
Mhm.
How has your instrument itself changed for you?
Mhm. Um, this will sound really funny, but I never played anything but just B flat clarinet and a little bit of E flat. Now I play bass, and I'm actually playing basset horn in a couple weeks on a concert. So I think
Cool.
I'm less inhibited. I'm like, sure, I'll play that. That sounds great. Because I'm like, I just get to play. It's it's exciting and it's really fun. And I've enjoyed learning how to do the other stuff too. I think it's opened my mind to like, oh, you can do more with this. And I'm teaching a woodwind methods class this semester, so I'm
Oh, cool.
relearning flute, and that's been fun with my high schoolers because I'm like, you guys have got to pass off this show. And I learned the whole flute part in a day, and they didn't believe that I could do that. I'm like, yeah, I can. And so I'm like, what's your excuse? And they're like, shoot, I have to.
There you go. Teaching
Uh,
101. Show up your students, right?
yes. Yeah.
Cool. Well, Amy, thank you so much for your time today. I've just really enjoyed digging a little deeper on your story. And we've had multiple conversations about this, but now we get to have one set in stone a little bit, or set on YouTube. And I have two questions that I like to ask all of my guests at the end of every
Okay.
episode, because they're two questions that were personally very meaningful to me, um, that I needed to answer for myself as part of my own healing and my recovery process. But the first one is, if you had somebody come up to you and say, "Hey, I'm a cellist or trumpet player or whatever, and I'm going through an injury, or I just, they found something and I need to have surgery, what have you, and I'm not going to be able to play for a while." Basically, similar experience to you. Um, what's one piece of advice you would give that person?
Um, you can't recreate this. Do it during COVID, but hopefully that
Yeah, right.
never happens again.
Right.
Oh,
Please no.
yeah, please no, it wasn't worth that. I just got lucky. Um, that's a really hard one because every situation is gonna be
Oh,
different.
absolutely, yeah.
I never had a question of whether or not I should have the surgery until afterwards. I'm like, "Okay, we gotta do this." That everything made sense. Um, oh, that is so hard because it's devastating, especially if that's your income, that's what's supporting you and how
Yeah,
you live.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, you're gonna have to weigh the risks. Is it gonna keep you from going blind or losing ability in the future? Like, those are hard things. Like, I just had wrist surgery too last year because of overuse, and
Oh,
that
yeah.
one was a hard one, just kind of like, is it worth it? Do I can live with the pain. It's not that I can't move my arm. And it's much better than it was before. I can definitely play without the pain than it was before. So that one was worth it as well. But I did have to plan it carefully. Like, when can I take 2 weeks off? Because I don't wanna do a surgery that I won't have the time to recover from properly. So you wanna be careful about that, and it's hard. When you're a working musician, it's hard to find weeks or months that you can take off, and that's what I was facing when we were like, "Oh, we have to do brain surgery again." I'm like, "I don't have time to do that. This is not convenient at all."
It's never convenient. Yeah,
It's not.
yeah.
So if you have any power over the timing, maybe look at a window of, "Okay, I can reasonably take time off here." But yeah, if possible, already cancel your things. I was able to teach even though I couldn't play, because we could do it over Zoom, so I didn't have to worry about infections or anything like that as well. Um, you'll get creative to try and solve that. So definitely weigh your pros and cons and really think about it carefully and try to time it as well and set up your support group as well. And that goes for anything you have to face that's hard in life. The
Oh,
support group,
absolutely.
that is a deal breaker. Anytime I've had hard things, to have a good support group has made it possible.
Okay, last interruption, I promise you. Before we get to the rest of the episode, I just wanted to let you know that if you're a musician going through an injury and you need a community to help you get through it, if you need a sense of support, some people you can ask questions to, just gain a pick me up whenever you need it. The Musician Unchained support group, formerly known as the Trust the Process Podcast Injured Musician Support Group on Facebook. The link is in the description below for you to join. You don't have to go through this alone. Keep on keeping on and enjoy the rest of the episode. Right. And I think with any of those situations, it's really just like, you kind of alluded to this, but at the end of the day, what happens if you don't take the time that you need to, to heal? I mean, for you, it was really, really drastic life consequences. For others, it may just be like, you'll end up having to take more time off later or whatnot. It's really just like, you have to look at what your long-term goals are. Seeing is usually a pretty big one, the ability to see. But even just like, no, I want to actually have a career. And if like I have to take off a little bit of time now to recover from something, then ultimately that, will be worth it in the end. So yeah, definitely with that. And then the last question, Amy, is, I just love hearing everybody's answers to this because it fills my cup a lot. But if you had the opportunity to go back to what did you say, it was March of 2020, right? When this was all discovered, and you had the opportunity to either take away the experience or leave it there, what would you choose and why? And either answer is totally fine.
Wow. No one chooses to have brain surgery.
No, absolutely not.
I think I look at this every challenge I've faced in life. I wouldn't choose to do it, but I am grateful for the person I was able to become because of going through that. And I wouldn't want to take away that because I do think it's had a huge impact on how I see the world. Again, that I look at it as borrowed time and that I can enjoy it. And I know I'm going to have another brain surgery in the future. I just don't know when, but 90% sure it's going to happen. And I can't choose not to do that. It's going to happen. Hard things are going to happen, but how I face them and what I become because of the process, I think it's a beautiful thing. And I wouldn't want to take that part of that away.
Yeah. Just going back to one thing you said earlier, like being on borrowed time, I guess that really does change your perspective on everything going forward, doesn't it?
Yeah. And you'll have a little bit more, I don't know, some moxie of like, no, I want to make this happen. I don't want to wait 2 seasons no, we're going to do it now. And that's opened up some doors that probably wouldn't, because I was a little pushier, just like, no, I want to do it now. I don't want to wait. So some good things have happened because of that.
Beautiful. Just a lot of gratitude. So, well, Dr. Gabbitas, Amy Lee Gabbitas, thank you so much for your time today. It's been so much fun catching up and hearing your story in full.
Well, thank you, Clark, for having me. And I love that you're doing this with the podcast. Again, you're making something beautiful out of something hard. A lot of good in the world happens because something hard.
Yeah, exactly.
In fact, I'm going to share this last thing. I had 2 students, little 6th, 7th graders, playing a really hard clarinet duet, and they finally got it, and they just started screaming, "Hard is fun! Hard is fun!"
There you go.
That's the best mantra.
That is awesome. You said they were what, 6th graders?
6th graders.
There you go.
Hard is fun. I'm like, that is an important concept that you have already learned. It's going to help you.
That's going to help so much down the road. So, well, everyone out there in podcast land, thanks for joining us for another episode of Trust the Process. If you want to keep up with everything going on over here, sign up for our newsletter. We've got a little weekly thing that we send out with little sneak peeks of upcoming episodes and other happenings. And follow us on social media. Do all those podcasty things like and subscribe and share. Make sure that this gets out to as many people as possible. And so, anyways. Until next time, keep on keeping on. Hey, thanks for tuning into this episode of Trust the Process, the official podcast of Musician Unchained, the newest coaching program dedicated to helping musicians navigate and overcome injury. But before you go, I have a few quick ways you can stay connected and support our growing community. First of all, I'd love to hear from you. Shoot me a text with the link below and share your thoughts, questions, or just say hi. You can also check the show out on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. If you found value in today's episode, consider making a donation to support our mission of empowering musicians worldwide. Every contribution helps us create more content and resources for you. So visit link number 2 below to support the mission. If you decide to donate, I'll send you my newest resource, the Injured Musician Toolkit, which is an ebook designed to give you tools to help you get through your injury. Subscribe to our newsletter to get exclusive insights, tips, sneak previews of episodes, and announcements straight to your inbox. Act now and I will send you a free gift. So sign up at www.musicianunchained.com/newsletter. And if you or someone you know would like to go deeper with me in the topics of injury and mindset, head over back to musicianunchained.com and check out the Let's Hang tab. As always, I want to thank Daniel Baldwin, my audio engineer, and my sister Dana Lovell for her help with the promotional materials. There is no podcast without them. But before I go, I want to tell you how much I deeply appreciate your time and support. You are not alone on this journey. There are musicians and educators out there who need this resource, and we need to get it to them. Together, we are breaking the chain of old habits and thought patterns that don't serve us anymore, and unchaining the potential within ourselves to face each challenge with strength and resilience. So, as I always say, keep on keeping on, and keep trusting the process. Until next time.